Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube NFL segment, I'm going to be giving you 2014 NFL season in review. Now, one of the first things I thought was interesting about this season, okay, you had 12-4 teams in the NFL, and when this regular season ended, at least in my mind, there wasn't like that real clear-cut dominant team. Now, Seattle and New England, they were the top dogs in the respective conferences. I understand that. I pretty much figured they were going to come out of it, but to have 12-4 teams, that really made it more intriguing, I think, this playoff season as opposed to some ones in recent years past. Now, we had a 7-8-1 team win the division and make the postseason. I mean, it's a little more than an anomaly. This has happened a number of times in the last 5 seasons or so, and it really, to me, I do think the NFL playoff system needs restructuring and needs some kind of reconfiguring, but that is my opinion and my opinion only. Now, that division, the NFC South, had a robust 22-41-1 record. I mean, that is deplorable. That is really terrible, and I hope maybe the Saints will improve next season. I felt like they were the team that should have won that division but didn't get it done. Now, I think what we look at, I think the AFC, the dominance, I should say, in the NFC may be starting to dissipate and dwindle a little bit. The AFC went 33-30-1 versus the NFC this season. The season before that, it was like 33-30 in favor, or I should say 34-30 in favor of the NFC. And then in this 2012-13 season, it was 37-25 in favor of the NFC. So on top of that, the AFC has won 2 of the last 3 Super Bowls. So maybe this is kind of like a little harbinger of things to come, that maybe the AFC is starting to catch up a little bit with the NFC right now. And what's interesting, too, is you had 22 quarterbacks threw for at least 3,000 yards. Remember those times when 3,000 yards seemed like a very good achievement for a quarterback? Now, also, 11 of them threw for 4,000 or more yards. Now, another interesting thing is that despite this so-called proliferation of offense that's being talked about in the NFL, there's been some numbers that have gone down this season as opposed to last as far as offensive production goes. This season there were 22 teams that averaged 20 points or more per game. You had more than that in the season before. I think it was like around 25 or 26 that happened, that you had, I think it was 25 teams you had in the prior season that averaged 20 or more points per game. And there's passing attempts went down, scoring per game has gone down, scoring per team per game has gone down, the scoring average of each team, I mean not of each team, but the scoring average of the NFL diminished this season. So there's really, it's something about, what I find perplexing is that all this talk about the offense going up, and with all these, I mean, these rules that are supposed to be so advantageous to the offense, we're actually seeing offensive production actually go down. And another thing too is, I mean, we obviously had a phenomenal Super Bowl this season, and 4 of the last 5 were competitive in my opinion. They were decided, 4 of the last 5 were decided by 6 points or less. You had the one in the season prior to this one when Seattle annihilated Denver. And other than that, in recent years, this is really, the Super Bowl has really been something, I think, to look forward to. I can remember, it seemed like just yesterday, in the 80s or something, we had there were a number of Super Bowls that were just drubbings and blowouts, and it was just monotonous. And now I think the Super Bowl is revived, and it wouldn't surprise me because of this, or at least somewhat because of the NFL is going to actually gain in its notoriety, and I should say, I mean, popularity. So anyway, people, let me go over, I want to show you some interesting things, at least I thought was fairly interesting as far as the stats go, and some things connected with the season in review. So just hold on momentarily, people. Let me go over to my computer screen monitor, and I'll be right back with you. So just hold on momentarily. Okay, people, what I want to see, this is interesting, the stat comparisons on these numbers from 2013 to 2014. I'm sorry that the screen's a little bit crooked, but here we go. Now, 2013 points per game per team, 23.4. 2014 it went down to 22.6, which represents the scoring average per game for each team. So for all the teams in the NFL average. So anyway, the next stat, offensive touchdowns, 2013, 1214. Then 2013, 1214, and 2014, 1,187. That went down. Field goals made, 2013, 863. 2014, 829. That went down as well. Now, passing attempts, that went down as well, from 18,136 to 17,879 in 2014. Rushing attempts went down as well, as you could see, which is 13,871 to 13,688. Now, the PPP stands for pass play percentage, 56.7 2013, comparable in 2014, 56.6. So that didn't really diminish much. It's virtually the same, so it's still a very strongly passing league. Now the next stat is RPP, which stands for me for rushing play percentage, which is 43.3% 2013 to 43.4% 2014, very close. Now interceptions went down from 2013, 502 in 2013 to 450 in 2014, and the sacks went down as well from 2013 to 2014. It went from 1295 to 1212, and a lot of this obviously I think being attributed to the fact that the defenses are a little more apprehensive because of the way the rules are set up now, that they are afraid to get penalized, and consequently they're not as assertive and aggressive on the defensive end. Now here we go to the penalties. Penalties increased dramatically from 2013 to 2014. It went from 7,174 in 2013 to 8,212 in 2014, and that's a difference of about 14%, and it went up over 1,000 penalties from 2013. So that difference is immense and prodigious, to say the least. Now penalty yards, of course, that is up. Went from 54,146 to 56,874 from 2013 to 2014. Now let me go to the next frame I want to show you and kind of give a summation of this past NFL season. So let me just get over there and hit that, and we're going to go to the review. Now, as far as now some interesting numbers for the 2014-15 NFL review. As I stated before, 5, 12, and 4 teams. You had a 7, 8, and 1 team make the playoffs. 22 quarterbacks throw for 3,000 or more yards. 11 quarterbacks throw for 4,000 or more yards. 22 teams average 20 or more points per game, which was down from the season before. AFC went 33-30-1 versus the NFC. Scoring down nearly a point per team per game, and which is almost 2 points for each game, actually, because since obviously you have 2 teams in every game. Now, 4 of the last 5 Super Bowls were competitive, and 1,038 more penalties were called this season as opposed to the previous season, which was 2013-14. So anyway, people, let me get back to my spot. I'll be right with you again. Okay, people. And there was one more thing, and I don't remember the exact stat on this, but it seemed to me, from what I remember and recollect, that in the AFC, in the regular season, the home field advantage was about 59% as far as an AFC team. An AFC team won like 59% of the time when they were home. Now, in contrast, the NFC was a little bit less. I think it was around 54%, somewhere around there, but it was definitely a considerably lower percentage than the AFC home field advantage. So the NFC home field advantage was not really that staggering, but the AFC not far from 60% as far as home field advantage. So it seemed like it made a little more of a difference if a home team, if an AFC team was at home as opposed to an NFC home team this season. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube NFL year in review segment for 2014-15. And until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.